April 20th, aka 420, which is code, as some of you might know, for marijuana. Now, marijuana plant is more than just marijuana. I don't know very much about it, but this guy knows quite a bit about it. This is Kelly Rippel, and he's an expert on hemp, cannabis, and everything in between. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, John.
Now, hopefully I didn't make too much of a fool out of myself by introducing it that way, because there's so much to know about hemp that people just don't know anything about. They think you smoke it and you get high, but that's just like one tiny bit.
This is true.
I mean, where do you even start when you are trying to explain this?
Well, so first off, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course.
I really appreciate it. And I guess the way that we can start off with describing cannabis is it is a plant that has multiple variations.
Uh-huh.
So an analogy that I like to use is like dogs. So you can have a German Shepherd, you can have a Maltese. They're all dogs, they're canines, but they're different breeds, they're different variations. And hemp and industrial uses of cannabis is different than the medicinal side. So those are two, I guess, varieties, or what they call cultivars.
Okay.
And I mean, cannabis is a dioecious plant, which means it exhibits both male and female characteristics. And humanity has been using it for literally millennia. It's been on the earth and has evolved with humanity over millions of years. And what my understanding is, it's one of the first cultivated plants that people used for agriculture.
What's your expertise in all of this, and who have you spoken to about it?
I have found that my calling in life is to be able to share information about all of the great things regarding cannabis and hemp that humanity can learn from. I've known about cannabis and kind of humanity's relationship with it since I was very young. It started in the 90s with DARE class. I came home and asked my parents, what do you know about this plant, marijuana, we keep hearing about, and that we're going to be told people are going to try to sell you this. And,
it's the devil.
And don't. This is a gateway drug. You will lose your life if you do this. My dad told me that he was involved with some research in the 1970s at K-State, where they studied best ways to kill or eradicate hemp, what they thought was marijuana. We know now that that's not true. They are different. Like I said, those are different varieties. And so over time, I kind of thought, well, this is weird. We're trying to kill a plant that we know grows well here. It can be used for all of these different purposes. There's something not quite right. And so, I've tried to learn as much as I can. Over time, I found those full text publications, and I wrote about it. And what I ultimately found out is that Kansas was the first state in the nation to eradicate hemp in this way. There's a program put in place in Kansas where the Justice Department funded research through the extension offices, and they tried to eradicate as much as they could. It was a social issue at that time, and they surveyed farmers, and the farmers said, we actually don't want any part of this. We don't agree with a control program, and we also think that it could harm ecosystems if we do take this out. And unfortunately, the rest is history. But I find it very interesting that we knew back then cannabis was a very important plant for the ecosystems, for biodiversity, and we're just now kind of getting back to that. So what I want to share, I guess, as far as several different products that can be made from industrial hemp. And by the way, hemp was reintroduced in Kansas in 2019 as a research program. And I was extremely fortunate to be appointed to the Industrial Hemp Advisory Board under the Department of Ag. And so I've been able to see the change of the program. There was a lot of CBD, people growing for medicinal purposes, for flour. Those kinds of cultivators, they will exist in the future, but we are seeing a huge transition to tall and fibrous varieties like the industrial use for hemp that can be made into all of this is made of hemp, both of these shirts are made of hemp.
I mean, this just feels like clothes.
It is clothes. Yeah. This is 55% hemp and 45% organic cotton. The t-shirt is 60% hemp and 40% organic cotton. And, all of these, essentially anything that plastic can be made of, hemp can make it as well. And in a lot of circumstances, it is stronger.
Hemp can be a plastic substitute.
It is. It is a plastic substitute. So these are coasters that and a carrier that actually is 3D printed from hemp filament. This is actually a mold injection that they use for 3D printed hemp. And, golf tees, all of the things that we use daily as far as single use, like straws and cutlery, plasticware, those things can be made of hemp. And the fact that they're 100% biodegradable, we definitely need to be thinking about transitioning to these types of products.
So it seems like if these are made of hemp and these, instead of floating around in the ocean for 300 years and sticking out of turtles' noses, they can just break down. I won't have my entire gut full of microplastics. Why aren't we transitioning right now?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it has to do with the behemoths that are manufacturing and supply chain. And a lot of people for a long time have been saying all of this.
Yeah.
I am one of many over the whole world that has this message and knowledge about what is actually happening in other places that do offer these and embrace the energy, everything that this can be used for.
Those places do exist.
They do exist,
oh,
and they actually exist just a border over. Colorado is one of them. They, Colorado is one of the states that has the longest running hemp program, and they have one of the largest acreage planted and harvested each year. So, and I've also heard from multiple sources that Colorado's hemp program was actually started by seeds that came from Kansas, because everyone knows that hemp from Kansas is very robust.
Really?
That's why it grows wild all over the state in all four corners. And I will also say, as a crop adjuster, that's what I do full time. Crop insurance is offered in all 105 counties of Kansas because it grows well throughout the state. What I believe is kind of the next steps is now that hemp is protected under federal crop insurance, now that we do have kind of more of a protection of supply chain, making sure that producers and growers of hemp need to have a contract with an end manufacturer and supplier, I think that we are going to see a shift over the course of probably, it'll take 5 to 10 years. I mean, this is a long game. We're talking about introducing an entire industry that contributes to multiple sectors. If we want to break it down, we're looking at 9 to 10 different sectors that hemp contributes to. Each of these, food, shelter, energy with biofuel, and like we were talking about, batteries, building material, insulation, all of those things have their own supply chain, manufacturing chain, and because of the fact that we've kind of just transitioned into the commercial phase over the past year or two, I think we're going to start to see more shifting and a lot more progress in the years to come. That's the hope. And I know that a lot of commodity groups out there, like with corn and soybean, they're seeing a lot of fluctuations in markets. And as far as when I think about hemp, we know that it can be used for a rotational crop. So I think that, there is something that we can kind of focus on is maybe reintroducing hemp as a rotation crop for some of these other commodities, because there are data out there that show when you introduce hemp and then you switch back to a different crop, a lot of that soil and the biodiversity within the ground can be reversed if there's degradation, and that's called phytoremediation. So it remediates the soil, and the next crop of either soybean or corn, it can produce more. So hemp in a lot of ways helps other plants grow as well.
Is it still illegal to grow hemp, or are we coming out of that?
That's a great question. So the way that the program stands right now, you have to become licensed with the Kansas Department of Agriculture and be submitting your acreage reports and those common planting and harvesting reports to the USDA. One of the things that we are hearing from a lot of farmers is they would like to see the plant become more accepted, meaning that change from requiring a license, that needs to go away eventually. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with the USDA hemp program director, and he said that their department understands this. They've heard this for a while, and if there is enough lobbying done on the national level, that could be a change with the 2023 Farm Bill. So there's a lot of work that has to be done. I've been personally trying to get in contact with folks about this, and I think it's something that needs to happen sooner than later. But because the ultimately what we all know that a requirement for farmers is to submit their data to FSA and to USDA, the Farm Service Agency. And so there doesn't really need to be any other restriction beyond that. I guess the argument can be made and is made from law enforcement that, well, this plant can be turned into something else, or that it does produce THC that is technically a controlled substance right now. But the reality is we don't regulate corn, even though it can make alcohol. So it really was arbitrary that THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, was included in law to begin with. And that's a discussion that we could have, all on its own. But the reality is it wasn't scientifically backed. And the original researchers of this report from Canada that was then used to put into the Controlled Substance Act, they have even come out and said that was just a report that they did. It should have never really been used into law. So THC really never should have been put into a statute.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
But it's there.
It is. So we are trying to reverse it now. Yeah.
Which it's been successfully reversed to some extent in a lot of different states. And I know there is a push in Kansas. Is it likely? What do you think?
I think it is likely. And being involved with some of the conversations and the folks who are on the inside in the Capitol in Topeka working on this, we will be looking at having a medical cannabis program in the state of Kansas, hopefully by the end of this year. The legislature's on a break right now, and when they come back, I've been told that the docket has kind of been cleared, and they know that this is coming. They've been hearing for years from their constituents about it, and a lot of them, I think, understand both from the patient advocacy side and the need for medical access to cannabis, but also, they understand from the criminal justice perspective in that we really shouldn't be putting people behind bars for a plant and for nonviolent crimes like this. And so, the hope is that they will vote on it when they get back, and it's a long, nothing is over till it's over in the legislature. Everyone knows this, but the hope is that they will put something together that will be good for the state.
Keep the show going is with your help. Advertise with Northeast Kansas at Home, or if you're just a person, get a membership. $24 helps us for 6 whole months.